Hey guys, it's Daniel with the Truck Insurance Channel. I'm going to go over how to apply for your DOT and MC number, specifically for the person who is trying to start a hotshot company and run over 26,000 pounds. So you'll need your CDL for this. Again, this is for CDL Hotshots. So you're going to be running over 26,000 pounds in a hotshot setup. So here we go. First off, new applicant. And the link below to get directly to here is in the description. Okay, so just go down in the description. There's going to be links for everything as we go. A couple things you should probably have in place before you get started on this. Professional email, I would recommend, or at least a separate email just to kind of monitor, because you're going to get so much marketing from compliance companies, insurance companies, everything in between, people trying to sell you stuff for getting your authority started. So have that set up. Don't use like a regular personal email or something when you're filling this out. You want to have a separate email set up already, and I would recommend setting up some professional email. You know, like if your company name is Smith Trucking, you want it to be John at Smith Trucking, not Smith Trucking at yahoo.com. I mean, I know a lot of people do that, but you know, when it comes down to applying for brokers, applying for loans, and everything else in between, you're going to want to present yourself professionally. So that's just something to consider. I've got some links down below too for setting those up through either GoDaddy or Google Workspace. So new applicant, next. There's a lot of stuff I'm not going to read to you, but you can read through here. I'm just going to kind of highlight exactly what you need to put in so you don't mess up any of this and make it impossible to get insurance quotes or do other things. Another thing you're going to need, if you're filing an LLC, which I would recommend, but I'm not an attorney or an accountant or any legal advice, anything like that, you want to have your EIN, your tax ID. Before you get your tax ID, you should have your LLC filed. Got links below for those as well if you need help filing your LLC. I do mine through the Secretary of State. I'm in North Carolina. I just go to the NC Secretary of State website. You would do the same in your state, but you know, like if it's Georgia Secretary of State is kind of what you would Google to find that. If you don't feel comfortable filling out that paperwork, I've got links to LegalZoom and InkFile. Both are good companies. They'll help you get it done, but you don't need to purchase like their ultimate package or whatever. Just get the most basic package to get the LLC started. And then you can go file for your EIN for free, which I have another link for that below. Setting up Dun & Bradstreet, you can do that later if you want. It can take a minute to get that done. You might be rushing to get this done, so like at least have your EIN and LLC done. I really recommend against doing a sole proprietorship. I mean, you have like no legal protection. If you have any assets, you could be in some trouble. So file an LLC, it's worth it. Plus, you know, again, a lot of this goes back towards like setting up your insurance and being able to apply and get, you know, decent loans for equipment like your trucks and trailers, all that good stuff. So you want to have this wrapped up and legit as possible and set yourself up for success. So do those types of things ahead of time. So next, financial responsibility notice, designation of process agent. That's going to be like part of your BOC3, issuance of active US DOT number, certifications and O signature, information collection notice. They're going to give your information out to everybody. So applicant ID. Just in case you don't finish this, what I always recommend is use, like if you have an Apple device, use Apple Notes or use anything else you have. I like using Apple Notes. It's just on all my devices, but you know, if you have Samsung, Motorola phone, whatever, a Windows laptop, whatever you got, just make sure your notes are accessible like across all your devices, because you're going to need this stuff on the fly all the time. All right, so your applicant ID, password. We're going to set up a password and security question. All right, this password right here, though, is really important. You're going to be asked this password multiple times later on in the application. And since we all forget our passwords as soon as we create one, even though it's like close to what all our other passwords are, and then it just doesn't work and you get angry, like let's just not do that. Let's just write down our password. And don't write it down. I mean like type it into a note so you can access it. And like in a note that you can regularly use. If you don't regularly use notes on a device already, like get in the habit of that. It's really important, especially when you're driving down the road and you need something really fast. Can't stress enough, use notes. All right, anyways, password. This is a long one too. So see, it's got to be 12 characters long, contain at least one number, one lowercase letter, one uppercase letter, one special character, but only these characters, which is a pain because you might want to use something else. You can only use those. I'm going to write down my security question and my answer and exactly how I type it. All right, so if I put a capital B right there, that's gonna go in my notes over here. Okay, next. Again, really important to remember that password. Okay, so applicant contact. Let's just say you own this business, you're filling this out for yourself, You're going to be the driver. You're going to do everything. You wear all the hats, okay? You do everything. So we're going to fill out your information in here multiple times because there's applicant contact, there's like company owner, there's a bunch of different roles, but you're going to be all of those roles. Company contact, not applicant representative. You're a company contact. So you can use the same number. I use Ring Central in my business. Oh, and back up here, address, contact address. Use the address where you can actually be reached. Like if they need to mail you anything. There's another section for mailing address, but for this purpose with your contact, use like your home address or wherever you want to actually receive mail as the contact for this company. I like to choose both just in case you miss one, the other might catch you. A lot of times stuff gets lost in the mail, so I don't do just US mail. And you're going to get so many emails, I would just do both. You should be monitoring your emails and trying to delete all the advertising you don't need, but just word of advice. Business details regarding the applicant. Nope, don't have it done in Bradstreet number yet. If you have one, just put it in. Quick and easy. Legal business name. All right, your legal business name. This part's really important. A lot of people mess this up. So if you filed Smith Trucking LLC, right? Because you formed an LLC. You need to put that LLC on there. Quick reference, I say this in a lot of these other videos I've made for authority applications. Keep your business name really simple when you go to file your LLC, all right? If you do Smith and Johnson Trucking and Logistics and Transportation Worldwide LLC, like think about that. Like no one wants to write that, okay? Keep it simple, all right? And then another thing, like if it's S.S. Smith Trucking or Trucking LLC, look what happens over here. Only the following special characters may be entered by the applicant. So here's what happens. This is what I run into with people. They use periods. Well, you can use a dash, right? You can use the little dash symbol. You can do amperstamp, which is this guy. Whoops. You can do the amperstamp, a dash, a plus, apostrophe, and space. All right, so those are like, you can put a space in there. You can use an apostrophe. So if it's like Smith's Trucking, like you can do that. That's legal. But a lot of times people put these extra characters and stuff in there, and your LLC has to perfectly match to your authority, which is what you're putting in this application, in order to get contracts like legally binding when you book loads with brokers or when you try and factor with a factoring company. The name has to perfectly match. And if it doesn't, you're not going to be able to sign up for factoring, or your broker might not pay you, or there's a bunch of scenarios where because you didn't set up an easy business name, now you're running into problems down the road. All right, so make sure your name matches perfectly, and when you file your LLC, choose an easy name. All right, like don't go crazy. Next, DBA name. If you don't have a registered DBA, don't put anything in here. Like a lot of times people will be like, oh, I just need to fill this out. So they'll put Smith Trucking LLC. No. If you don't have that registered as a DBA, separate from your LLC, all right, this is a whole different thing, okay? Like a lot of times you have a DBA if you're creating like a second company under the same, or under your current company, like say you already have a business, an LLC, and you want to do a separate thing for trucking, you might do a DBA that way. Or if you're sole proprietor, which I don't really recommend, you might do a DBA. So it could be John Smith, DBA, Smith Trucking. And there's no LLC on the end of that because you haven't registered an LLC. You could register an LLC that is a DBA of an existing other entity that is registered in one form or fashion. Okay, but for the most part, stay away from DBAs. It's just added junk that you don't need. So leave this one alone if you don't have a DBA. Do not enter anything in here unless you actually have a DBA that's registered. All right, next is the applicant's principal place of business address. Okay, real quick, your principal place of business. Someone might have told you to get a virtual address, normally for like building credit, right? Because you need an actual commercial address to help build credit for some creditors, not all of them. Anyways, different topic. Don't use a virtual address for anything related to your authority application or insurance, okay? If you want to build credit with a virtual address, there's a proper way to do that when it comes to trucking. But do not use a virtual address for your principal place of business, or you could use it for your mailing address if you really want. I would still avoid that unless you actually get the mail forwarded from there to you. And if you use a virtual address service, a lot of times they charge extra for that. I would just stay away from it. If you want to get a virtual address, find the cheapest little virtual address. I'll put a link down below for virtual addresses, a cheap, easy one. All right, if you really want to use that for building credit, all right, for your commercial credit, that is an important thing, but keep it away from your authority and your insurance because it creates issues with underwriting. All right, no one's parking a million trucks at a virtual address, okay, and a lot of people end up using the same virtual address, which is kind of annoying, right? Like, just stay away from it. It's okay to use a virtual address. There's just a very specific way to use it, and you don't put it anywhere near your authority or this application. Keep it away from here and keep it away from insurance, okay? It messes things up for you, so just don't do it. All right, so applicant's place of just the same as the applicant contact. So principal place of business, applicant contact address. Yes, if you actually have like a lot or a place where you will be conducting business, like an office, anything like that, you would select no and put in the address for that. But for purposes of this, like, let's just say you're going to operate from home. Yes, the addresses are the same. Next. All right. So business description, blah, blah, blah. Mailing address. We're going to use the same mailing address. Yeah, if you want to use a mailing address, or if you want to use a P.O. box for a mailing address, go ahead. No big deal. Do that. But, you know, I just, wherever you use your mailing address, make sure you actually get mail there. It can create some issues with insurance and the DMV if you don't use an address where you can actually get mail, like, easily. All right. Principal place of business telephone number. This can be the same as the contact you just had. If you don't have one of these numbers, it's okay, but you have to have, I believe you have to have at least a business telephone number. All right, EIN number. Next. Is the applicant a unit of government? No. You might do government contracts at some point, but you're not a unit of government. And hopefully you filed an LLC out of whatever state you're in. All right, ownership and control. Owned, controlled by a citizen of the United States. If you are not a citizen of the United States, I'm not exactly sure. I've had a couple people ask me, like, hey, I don't have citizenship, but I want to start a company here. I'm not a good resource for that. All right. Names and titles of the sole proprietor, partners, or others. Okay, partners or others. Business description. So company contact 1. So select this if you were the contact and you're also going to be this person here. Okay, company contact number 1. You're going to type a lot of this stuff over and over and over again. If you have more contacts, you can put them there, but that's pretty much it. Company contact address. Use your same address unless you have some good reason to use another one. And don't put your virtual addresses on here anywhere. Business description section, we're done with that. Moving on along. You might want to read some of those so you understand them. All right, will the applicant operate as an intermodal equipment provider? So I know there's some intermodal type stuff going on with Hotshots. It's kind of a growing segment, but I'm not going to go over that in this video. So for now, no. Getting intermodal endorsements, like the UIIA endorsement, is kind of tough. When you're first starting out, there's only a couple insurance companies that do it. So I would stay away from it at first, unless you have, like, you're right near a port, and you've got some good lanes to run that looks profitable for you, maybe then, but the insurance can be kind of high. Will the applicant transport property? Yes. Yeah, you're a hotshot hauler crossing state lines. This is going to be for you. You're moving property. Will the applicant receive compensation? Yes. I hope you do. What type of property will the applicant transport? We're not talking about hazmats in this video. Household goods might trip you up. Don't select this. Household goods means you move a person from their house at house A, and they were moving to house B, so that's household goods movers. Okay, that's no fun. I don't like those. Exempt commodities, not talking about those in this video. So other non-hazardous freight, that's what we're selecting. When I talk about what to select in here, I'm really serious. It's important you select the right things so that you can actually get a decent insurance quote. A lot of times, like, you mean well. All right, when people fill these out, they mean well. They want to haul anything that they want to take and haul anything that they can, right? You're not limiting yourself on what you're going to have access to, like load boards and all that, by following along with me. So, but you can accidentally select something and completely, lose your chances of getting a decent insurance quote or an insurance quote at all. All right, so will the applicant transport non-hazardous materials across state lines, otherwise known as interstate commerce? Yes. Will the applicant transport their own property? You might occasionally, but we're going to say no, because it's not like you're hauling your own property, like your business's property. Man, how do I say this? Like, if you were going to deliver your own goods to someone, that would be transporting your own property. But if you move your skid steer or a side by side or something on your trailer with your work truck, that's not what we're talking about here. So just select no. Will the applicant transport any passengers? No. Like, even if you have your spouse or something in the truck, or significant other, whatever, that's not the type of passengers we're talking about. We're talking about, are people going to pay you to haul them, deliver them somewhere, A to B, cross state lines, that type of thing, and you're not going to do that. All right, will the applicant provide property or household goods broker services? No. A lot of times people want to be a broker and a carrier, but when you're starting off, you're not going to do both. You're going to do just one, and this video is for the people that want to be carriers, motor carriers. All right, will the applicant provide freight forwarder services? Again, no. Will the applicant operate a cargo tank facility? No, not in this video. Will the applicant operate as a drive-away? No. So if you end up doing like auto hauling, you might want to include this in your operations, but for the sake of this video, no. Will the applicant operate as a towaway? No. All right, so what are you going to haul? General freight. A lot of this is tempting. Some of this stuff you might actually haul, but don't select any of this stuff until after you get your insurance. You can go do an MCS 150 and update your commodities. It might make a difference for insurance. You might need to let your insurance know if you're going to switch and do like motor vehicles. Okay, you need to check with your agent and make sure your cargo policy covers anything you select after the fact. But just getting insurance to begin with is really important, that you just select general freight. Like, and you can talk with the agent beforehand, before you get insurance. Be like, hey, I'm going to haul generators and tractors and whatever on my hotshot rig. Your agent will know, like, okay, yeah, that's fine. You do that type of thing. That's good. I know what insurance companies to place you with. But if you come through here and select all of these options because you think you're going to go haul anything and everything you can off load boards or whatever, you're gonna run into issues with insurance, and it's no fun. Don't do it. Just keep it simple. All right. The agent will be able to help you a lot faster if you only select this. Because if you come through and you select everything, chances are you're gonna wait, most definitely, to get this updated back to what I'm telling you to, just general freight, or you're not gonna get that done. All right, and you're gonna get pissed off by calling 10 different agents and none of them help you. All right, so just follow along. Back up. Let's check one other thing here real quick. So just for the sake of not making another video, if you want to haul vehicles, right, you can select motor vehicles here. It's going to make a difference in your minimum required insurance, or the minimum requirement for your insurance per the FMCSA. What that means is, like, selecting general freight only, your minimum requirement here is going to be $750,000 for insurance. You're going to get $1 million on your insurance policy just because that's the standard, right? The FMCSA requires you to have $750,000. Everybody else requires you to have $1 million. You might start your policy with $750,000 and then bump it up to $1 million once you actually start running. That's perfectly normal. But if you select motor vehicles, your minimum requirement is going to be $1 million. Sometimes people will tell you, like, hey, go ahead and select motor vehicles, so your minimum is $1 million to start off with, because brokers want to see that. That's not true. It's not true at all. No one cares what the FMCSA requires of you, okay? Like, when we're talking brokers or anyone that you're going to haul for, all that they care when they check FMCSA is that you're active or not, all right? They want to see that you're active. Then they're going to ask for a certificate of your insurance. The insurance certificate is going to show, like, what your actual limits are and what all you have, okay? So what the FMCSA expects you to have, it doesn't really matter, okay? So don't select motor vehicles unless you actually plan on running motor vehicles, because that can make a big difference in what insurance companies will insure you. And you want to keep your options open because there's barely any options to start with anyways. So there we go. All right, next up, vehicles. So non-commercial motor vehicle property. Please provide the number of non-commercial motor vehicles the applicant plans to operate. All right, so you got a dually, and its GVW is over 10,000 pounds. So when you're over, when you're 10,001 pounds and up, you're a commercial motor vehicle, all right? If your truck, if you were going to do like some truck that weighs less than, it's 10,000 pounds or less, you put in a 1 right here. But most of the time, the hotshot setups are dualies, especially if you're doing CDL work. All right, so in here, we're going to do one straight truck. Whoops, actually, we're going to do one owned trailer. If you lease it, that's fine, okay? You put in your 1 right there, or your 1 right here for owned, all right? So if you paid cash or financed, you own it. If you're on a lease, You're leasing. You're on a term lease. Next. Please provide number of commercial motor vehicles applicant will operate in Canada, Mexico. 0. If you want to go outside of U.S., you can come back and fix this later. Operate solely in interstate commerce. 1. You might run occasionally intrastate, like inside your state lines for loads. That's still okay. But like for the purposes of filling this out, we want to make sure the system knows that you need to be a motor carrier, an interstate motor carrier. So we're going to put 1 in here, and then we're going to put a 0 in here. Even though you might occasionally do it, it's not solely, okay? It's not solely. All right. Next. Drivers. This is kind of the same setup as your trucks. All right, what is the number of drivers who will operate as interstate within a 100 air mile radius? If you live near state line or a couple state lines, you might put a 1 in here, but I'm putting 0. Beyond 100 air miles, 1. And again, solely intrastate, staying in the same state, 0. 0. What are the number of drivers with a driver's license, with a commercial driver's license? 1, you the driver, or 1, your driver if you're hiring somebody. 0, 0 for drivers that are going to operate. All right, driver summary. Moving on along. All right, see, it just bumped from 32 to 72%. That's awesome. Okay, so in the operation classification section, you specify the entity will be transporting property, interstate, and for compensation. Will any of this property get transported in vehicles greater than or equal to 10,001 pounds? Yes. Next. All right, financial responsibility. So your BI, PD, bodily injury, property damage, which is your auto liability coverage. That's what you're going to need. Liability is $750,000. All right, we already figured that part out. But you're actually going to get $1 million policy, at least eventually. You might start off with $750 just to get the authority started, but you're going to need $1 million to go haul for people. All right, affiliation with others. You are not affiliated with anybody else. No. All right, certification statement. All right, John. Remember how we needed to save that password? Well, right here's why. We're going to do this over and over again. Yes, you certify. Yes, you certify. Yes, you certify. Yes, you certify. Make sure you read these. Yes, you certify. Certify, certify, certify. All right, again, that password. Hope you remembered it. Almost there. Oaths. Next, you're going to take an oath. And again with the password. All right. Next, we're going to register for company official FMCSA portal account. So what does that mean? So like we had a username and password for this application. Should the company official role be assigned to the company contact, John Smith? Yes. You're going to create a new user ID. Please enter non-government email ID as user ID. So what does that mean? We're just going to put in our email. This password can be the same password, but you got to retype it. All right, so you put your email there. You're also going to put your email here. Method of contact, both go. All right, so next. Would you like to use the same security questions from the very beginning when we first started this? So go ahead and hit yes. You should have already typed them down or written them down, typed them into a note. Next. Register for company official FMCSA portal account. Next. 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 Boom. So the last thing you do is pay your $300 fee. If this is more than $300 right here, then you probably messed something up. Go back through, watch the video again, and boom. Operate as for-hire property carrier general freight, which is just fine for a CDL Hotshot. And yeah, check out all the other links below. Thanks for following along. If you have any questions, shoot us an email, office@charlesstring.com. You can schedule calls. We do like free consultations, so there's a link for that below. A whole bunch of links below. Check out all those companies. It's good stuff for getting started. And yeah, stay tuned. We'll have some more available here soon. Thank you guys. Take care.